Hello and welcome to MVP English School Online with yours truly, Steve, right here, right for you, right now. All right. Today, I'm doing a live stream video. I know it wasn't scheduled, but I just wanted to talk to you guys about and have a real honest conversation about English teaching in Japan. I've been living and teaching in Japan for 23 plus years, a little over 23 years, and I've taught in a lot of different situations, in a lot of different for a lot of different companies. I started out in the JET program, and I did that for 3 years in the city of Matsuyama in Ehime Prefecture. After that, I worked for some conversational schools. I worked for GABA Man to Man in Tokyo area, Tokyo Yokohama area for a little bit, and then I went home for about 10 months. And when I came back working for Nova. I worked for Nova for over 4 years, almost 5 years. Um, and I worked for their Ocha Noma Ryugaku. So I taught people, much like I'm doing now, over the internet back in the day. After that, I worked for a small conversational school, and then I worked for international kindergarten for 9 years, and I've done ALT work for a private institution, junior, elementary, junior, senior high school in Nara. So I've kind of ran the whole course of any kind of teaching positions that you can do, and while I was working full time positions, I'd done several part time positions as well. Did events for different schools where I dressed up like Santa Claus or did Halloween parties with people with different schools. I've taught business English courses for different companies over the years. So I've really kind of taught in every situation, or almost every situation that you could teach in Japan. And in my experience, um, there it's kind of reaching a point where there's almost too many cooks in the kitchen. Uh, and by that, I mean that there's a lot of different schools, some are big companies, some are privately owned by former teachers like myself. There's a lot to choose from out there, and which one is the best, and which one should you go for? I'm sure as students, it's really confusing for you, and I totally understand it because they all seem pretty good, right? But the question you should ask yourself really is how many of those schools out there are actually trying to teach you English? Mhm. How many of them really care if you can speak English well or not? And, you know, I mean, there are lots of good schools out there, and I'm not saying that that any of them are necessarily bad either, but honestly, you know, most schools, they're a business first and foremost, and they're about making money. So, it kind of makes financial sense from a business standpoint to make students, of course, have fun, enjoy lessons, but keep taking lessons indefinitely. There's no end date, there's no goal in sight necessarily for most schools out there, right? And what are they teaching you? Are they teaching you English that you really want to know? Are they teaching you the English that a lot of native speakers use? For example, uh, swear words, bad language. Are they teaching those things to you? I'll bet they're not, and I know most of them don't. Teachers are strictly forbidden to teach any of that kind of language to you guys, even for adults only lessons. Um, and I think as adults out there, you should be able to choose whether you want to learn certain language or not. You're an adult. Certainly in your native languages, you probably know or use bad language from time to time. Certainly I do. I use it all the time um, in my everyday life. And honestly, I would love to do lessons teaching students that kind of language. Of course, it's up to you guys. I'm not going to force anyone to learn my lessons, especially my adult only lessons, 18 and over only lessons. But I think it should be available to you guys. That's what I believe here at MVP English School Online. You should be able to learn the English that you want to learn. You're the student. You are in charge of your own education. And you should be. Okay? And that's why my school is here for you. My school is actually here for anybody, but especially those students who have been studying English for quite a long time with maybe a couple different schools, or maybe you've been at only one school the whole time, but your English is still not where you want it to be. I want to teach you how to communicate because that's what English is about. It's not about reading and writing only. It's not about, you know, taking a test and getting a high score only. Of course, that stuff is somewhat important too for schooling or for your jobs. I totally get that. I understand that. But that that also isn't the kind of English that is fun necessarily. It's not really fun taking tests and studying for tests and you know I mean, you guys know the grammar. You know grammar better than a lot of native speakers do, probably. Even people that are supposedly teachers in this country. uh, and it's shocking. You know, let's be honest. There are a lot of English teachers in this country that didn't study English in school. They have a if they graduated from university, some of them have degrees in like art history, and mathematics maybe. Some people have some teachers out there have degrees in anything but English and have very little experience teaching English as a subject or teaching period when they come to Japan. And a lot of those companies out there, the training is minimal. You know, if you're a warm body, and you can sit in a chair, most of the time they're happy to put you there. Um, because it's not necessarily about your English knowledge or your expertise in the language that is important. It's just your desire to do the job, and you know often as well how good you look. you know um let's be honest, there are when I worked for Nova back in the day before it went bankrupt. um a teacher actually got a complaint from a student that the company actually told this teacher about. And the complaint was that she was too ugly to teach English. I mean, that complaint and the way they handled that complaint tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the business of English teaching in Japan. For a long time, primarily, it has nothing to do with how good a teacher you are, how good the system is, and how good your English becomes by being a student in that system. It's all about how attractive are the teachers? How attractive is the classroom? How professional does it look? And very little focus is put on how good is your English after 6 months, after a year, after 2 years. There's no real goals for your English and your English ability. And if I were a student learning English, that would be one of my main concerns. I don't care what the teacher looks like. How good are they at teaching me what I want to know? So, if you want to know English very well, if you want to learn how to communicate in English and use it when you meet people from different countries here in Japan, or use it when you travel to different countries outside of Japan. If you want to have that ability, MVP English School Online is for you because I care. I care if you learn English. I care if you can use English to communicate what you want to say to people that are not Japanese. Okay. I care that you progress in your English ability. And definitely, there is a plan and there will be a goal in mind when you sign up with my school, if you choose to sign up with me. Okay. Um, because I'm going to unmuddy the waters of English teaching at least as much as I can. And I'm going to try to help you become a better communicator. Yeah. That's my goal as a company. See, I'm not afraid to teach my students how to speak English, and be- because it doesn't really matter if they quit or not, you know, uh, because that's kind of the best advertisement you can get as a school, right? You know, oh, look at these students. They've graduated, they've moved on. They no longer need lessons from me because their English is that good. Although I would hope that my students would continue taking lessons just because they want to maintain their English ability and also um, you know have a chat with me from time to time. But I mean, I'm fine with students graduating and going on and moving on if that's what they feel like they need to do, because that's success. Your success is my success, is our success. Yeah. And that's the goal at MVP English School Online. We want to make you better communicators so that you can see, you can feel empowered, and you can see a real improvement in your ability to communicate in English in real conversations, not these made up conversations that, you know, that are a lot of times unrealistic that you find in textbooks. Textbooks are handy, especially uh, they can be handy for, you know, um, learning vocabulary, refreshing your grammar knowledge, things like that. But for the most part, textbooks are not necessary to learn a language. You didn't need a textbook to learn your native language. Your parents didn't take out a textbook and say, hey, let's study. No, they talked to you. They used the language, and your brain processed the language to a point where you could understand what they were saying. And then you could replicate that language and speak it yourself. Yeah. You have the ability, we all have the ability to learn languages without using a textbook like a Bible or, you know, like something we can't live without. Yeah. You don't need a textbook all the time and or at all to learn a language. But it's another one of those crutches that we've used, and there are all different kinds of textbooks out there. Every company will tell you, all the textbook companies will tell you how much you need this one, or how good this one is, or how good that one is, or how good this one. You know, which one is the best? Which one works the best? You know, for some students, maybe this textbook works good, or this one, or this one, or this one, but you can never be quite sure. And if you're stuck in a textbook, you're definitely not really using the language as it's intended. So I tend to stay away from textbooks personally, just because which is better, the conversation in the textbook that may not be very realistic, or certainly is not a situation where you're going to find yourself in a lot in your English speaking life? Or would you rather just learn the conversational English, or the English you need for different situations? I think personally, if I was a student, I'd want to learn what I need to learn for that situation. In fact, that's how I learned Japanese pretty much. You know, I went to classes when I first came to Japan, and they wanted to teach me textbook Japanese. And I'm sitting there saying to them, look, this is bunk. I don't like this lesson. I don't like the language you're teaching me, because this is not how Japanese people speak. This is not how people speak in an everyday conversation. And they laugh at my Japanese, or they my Japanese sounds funny to them if I use it. Yeah. So I went off on my own. Yes, I used a textbook to learn some vocabulary, to learn grammatical structures, and to learn how to read and write Japanese. That was it. Everything else I picked up from actually watching Japanese TV and having conversations with Japanese people and learning how to speak conversationally, like in action. you know, you need to take a chance in order to to have a chance at reaching the goals that you've set for yourself. So good luck, and I hope this talk today helped you in some way. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and feel free to, you know, respond with your own opinions, whether you agree with me or not. That's okay. That's fine. But if you don't agree, or even if you do, why? Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? What is your experience like? Please let me know. I'd be interested to find out. Okay. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you have a beautiful week. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye.